Hello, happy Tuesday everyone, and welcome to the next step of our learning journey for this week. Let's get started without further ado. Well, I hope you enjoyed getting your detective hats on and enjoyed looking at some of our exciting evidence yesterday. Let's have a quick reminder today of what our learning question is. So remember, we were looking at evidence or clues that were giving us some ideas about what might have happened. So what happened last Tuesday around 8 p.m. And when we talked about the learning question, we looked at this bit here, what happened. So that reminded us we were going to need to do some investigating, some really close thinking and looking. We're going to look some more at those detective skills today. We also briefly discussed Tuesday. We reminded ourselves that Tuesday, well, today is Tuesday this week, but the thing that happened that we're investigating happened last Tuesday. Okay, so that's Tuesday of last week, and it happened around 8 p.m. What do we know about p.m.? Well, let's see. We know that p.m. means that it happened later in the day, and 8 p.m. means it was actually night time. So when this incident occurred, it would have probably been dark outside. 8 p.m. is quite late, maybe even after our bedtimes. The other thing that we need to think about, as well as our learning question when going through any of our learning journeys, is our gateway. A gateway to learning is an aspect of learning that helps to remind us how we can reflect on how our learning journey has gone and think about what kind of learners we are. So this particular gateway is all about being a good explorer. We've talked about being a good explorer in our other learning journeys. So I just quickly want you to think about these explorer-related questions. What do I find interesting about this task? If you found this learning journey particularly exciting and interesting, perhaps that tells you something about the kind of learner you are and the kinds of things that you really enjoy. What have I found challenging so far? Challenging. Now that's a really important word, but it's always really important for us to consider whether or not we have found something challenging. If we haven't, then maybe we should be pushing ourselves a little bit harder and maybe going for the next more difficult task. Maybe the tasks that we've chosen are slightly too easy for us if we haven't ever found any of the things slightly challenging. And if you have found something challenging, brilliant. It means you're probably working at the right level. How have I overcome that challenge? That's the last question. Overcome, what does that mean? That's right, it means how have I moved past the challenge? How have I got round it? How have I completed the task, even though I found it challenging? Got over it is another way to say overcome. Okay, so you might want to pause the video here and have a little chat with your grown-ups or whoever you have at home with you about these questions that lead us to reflecting on what kind of learner we are. And once you've done that, go ahead and look at the next clip, in the next slide. The next slide we're going to be looking at today's task, and it's all about not just how we're going to be good learners, it's about how we're going to be really good detectives. Let's go. So, today's question: what skills do I need to be a good detective? And you might want to pause the video here and have a quick chat about what skills you used yesterday and what skills you think a detective needs to have to be a really good detective, to be really good at his job and be able to solve the crimes. Okay, pause the video now and have a quick chat about that. Okay, welcome back. Now let's have a look to see what's under these big shiny stars, our detective stars. What skills do you need to be a good detective? How many of you said you need to have good looking skills? You need to be able to observe. Observe is a big word that basically means looking carefully. If you have good observation skills or observing skills, it means you can look carefully at a picture or a scene or a clue, a piece of evidence, and notice lots of important things about it that might give you an idea about what has happened. So well done if you said looking is a really important detective skill. Let's see what's under this star. Here we go. Listening. That's right, listening. Now that could be listening to the environment around you when you go to the scene of a crime. What can you hear? Are there any clues in what might be going on around you that you might be able to hear? But it could also mean listening to others. When you interview a witness, for example, a witness is someone who may have seen something important, so you need to be able to listen to what they're telling you in order to make notes about anything important that they might have seen. So well done if you said you need to have good listening skills. Let's see this one. Here we go. This person is thinking, but they're thinking about something in particular. Does anyone know what these kind of squiggly lines with a dot, what those mean? That's right. Well done to anyone who said they're question marks. So this skill is all about questioning. Let's just take a moment quickly to practice some of our question marks, because you're going to need to be able to have a go at writing them a bit later. So you can either grab your pen and paper, your handy notebook, and a pen or a pencil, or you could use your magic pencil, which is two fingers, your first two fingers, your pointer finger and index finger, and have a go at writing it in the air like we do when we do our phonics. Okay, here we go. Right, we're going to practice them together. Ready? We're going to go up and over, round and down, and then a dot at the bottom. Let's try that one more time. Up and over, round, straight down, and then you can take your pen or pencil off the paper, skip down below and do a dot. Okay, fantastic. You're going to need those question mark skills, so keep your pen handy. Okay, and finally, what do we think might be under this star here? What's the last detective skill, or another detective skill that's quite important? Let's have a look. Oh, a light bulb. Turning on the lights. Is that an important detective skill? No, but what does this symbol stand for? Well, you might see this symbol represent or show when someone's had a good idea in a cartoon, or maybe in something you've seen before. A light bulb goes on, ding, and that means they've had a good idea. So this shows our thinking skills. It's really important when being a good detective to stop and give yourself time to have a really good think about what you have seen. So not always rushing through to get to the end of the task or activity, but actually really taking some time to stop and think. Okay, well, it's here that I'm going to suggest that now might be a good time for you to have a little break. That's right, it might be time, if it has stopped raining outside finally, perhaps for you to get outside and have a little walk. And as you go around on your daily exercise, on your walk, perhaps you could use some of those detective skills. Our detective here has returned to the scene of the crime. He's gone back to Leechwell Gardens, and look, you can see he's got his magnifying glass and he's having a look round for some more clues. Can you see any clues hidden around the gardens? Oh, I can see some of those. Yes, that's right. I can see some of those leaves that the police found on Wednesday morning. Now, it wasn't just at Leechwell Gardens that lots of reports have come in. The reports have come in from all around Totnes. So maybe there's something near where you live that hasn't been spotted yet that you could go and find on your daily walk. If you're not able to get out for a daily walk, that's fine. Maybe you could just go and have a look out of your window or into your garden and see if anything has been suspicious has been left behind. Have a go at using those detective skills. You're looking, you're listening, you're questioning, and you're thinking skills. And then once you've done that and had a nice break, then come back and join us for part 2 of today's lesson. Hello, welcome back everyone. So, how did it go? Did you manage to spot anything? Did you see or hear anything? Did you think of any questions or have any great ideas? Well, don't worry especially about the questioning part. We're going to come on to that just now. Let's have a look at what our learning question is or our activity is for today. Here we go. Here's our learning objective. I can use my detective thinking skills to ask important questions. So our objective today is really going to be focusing on this part of our detective skills here, the questioning. Now, as always, we have given you some different levels of challenge, so you can actually choose what you're feeling like you're going to be able to tackle today. Let's have a look at what those challenges are. So if you are in the green camp, and that would be perhaps, for example, children who are in walnut class would be aiming for green, and then as you go further up through the year groups, you'd be looking to go amber and red. Green children are going to be aiming to think of some questions. Okay, so you don't necessarily have to write your questions down. You just have to think of them and share them with a grown-up or whoever is helping you with this task. As an even better if you could record yourself asking those questions. So perhaps someone could take a little video of you actually asking some of the questions that you've thought of, and then you could upload that video onto Dojo. Amber group. Now your challenge is to actually pick up your notepad and your pen or pencil and have a go at writing down some of your important questions. Okay, so your task is to actually note those questions down. And if you're in the red camp, okay, so if you're in Oak class, especially if you're in year 2, you're going to be aiming for the red challenge. You're going to be using the question matrix to ask some challenging questions. Now I know what you're thinking, Miss Boach, what on earth are you talking about? What's a question matrix? Well, don't worry, we're all going to have a look at the question matrix now. Here we go. Oh, there we go. That's the right page. This is called a question matrix, this grid here. Now you can see I've inserted one of the photographs from our clues, and this is the image, the clue that we're going to be asking questions about in this particular section. And I'm just going to talk you through the question matrix a little bit to make sure it makes sense to everyone, how to use it. So over here on this side, you'll see the word lower. Now these question starters, this section here, is for your lower end questioning. These are going to be slightly easier to form, questions that are slightly easier to put together. So how would I put a question together? Well, I might say, what? Go along here, and then is. What is this man's name? Well, we know this man's name, it's Bob Smith, isn't it? What is? Now, is that a particularly good question to ask? What is? I suppose it's important information, so it's a good question to note down, but we actually have the answer. So maybe that wouldn't be one of my questions for today. If you are asking questions and you are in walnut class or year 1, you might want to be aiming for the lower end of the question matrix. So looking at the what, where, when, is, did, can. If you are in Oak class and you're feeling like you're really up for a challenge today, or you're in year 2, you might be looking for the higher end questioning, the who, why, how, the would, will, might end of the question matrix spectrum. Okay, I'm just going to give you a few examples to get you started, and then what you need to do is go ahead and pause the video and have a go at thinking of some of your own questions. Right, let me get my writing cursor ready. Okay, so I'm going to have a look at my question matrix. I'm going to look along here. I'm going to go for what. I'm going to go for what is. That's the easiest one that we can put together. What is? So my question might look something like this. What is he looking at? So he's glancing out of the window. There we go. He's glancing out of the window. Something has obviously intrigued him, but what is it? What is he looking at? So there's my very first question. Okay, I might go for something else. Maybe I'm going to go further down here. Let's look at a higher order question. So I'm going to go with who. who, and I'd like another higher order question starter. So who would, who will, who might, maybe that will work. Who might be out there? Who might be out there? Well, that's really what we're trying to discover overall, isn't it? Who might be out there? So it's now our job to go and find some more clues to answer those questions. Okay, so you can go ahead and pause the video now, see how many questions you can come up with. If you're going for a green challenge today, you might want to think of 1 or 2 questions per picture. If you're really pushing it and going for a red challenge, you might be thinking of maybe more like 3 or 4 questions. Okay, and amber aiming somewhere in between. So that's another way that you can decide on how much you're going to challenge yourself today. How many questions can you think of? Don't stop though. If you've got the questions flowing, get as many down as you can. Okay, we're going to go over to the next piece of evidence in just a moment. Right, here's our next clue that we're going to be analysing using our question matrix. Now I'm just going to give you one example of a question for this particular picture, and then I'd like you to pause the video and see how many you can think of. So I'm going to look at, I'm going to go for something a bit higher order, a bit more challenging. So I'm going to start with a how, but I don't always have to go from a higher order to a higher order question starter. I could use any of these along the top here to match my how question. So I'm going to go with how and then did. How did the frog get into the tree? There's my wiggly line with a dot. Can you see my question mark there? Wiggly line and down with a dot. Really important if we're doing the writing task today, that we're always remembering our end mark. So it's not a full stop today, it's a question mark. How did the frog get into the tree? That's a good start. Now you can stop the video and see how many questions you can think of. Off you go. Okay, and now we're ready to go to the last piece of evidence that we're going to examine today for our learning task. There we go. Now there's lots going on in this particular picture, so you might be able to think of quite a few questions for this one. Now let me have a look. How am I going to choose? Well, I'm going to go with, let's see, I'll start with where. Where is this? Where is it happening? Well, we know it's Totnes, so that's not really a question that I need to ask. What about where did? Well, that's a good start. Where did the leaves, where did they come from? All these strange leaves that have fallen on the floor everywhere. Where did they come from and how did they get there? Okay, well that's a good start. I wonder if I can have a look. Now I don't necessarily have to stick to my question matrix. That first question has inspired another idea. Where did the leaves come from? I'm wondering more about the leaves now. I'm focusing on the leaves and I'm wondering what kind of leaves are they? Now some of you may have already been able to answer that, and some of you might want to do a little bit of research now, see if you can answer what kind of leaves they are. Now you can see from my question what kind. I don't have the word. Let's see, I've got is, did, k, an, can. This is a tricky word here, a red word. You can't sound it out, so you just have to learn this one. Would, will, might. Doesn't have the word kind up there, what kind. But I've just thought of that question from my head. It's been inspired by my first question, and that's absolutely fine. You can go ahead and think of your own questions, or you can use the question matrix to help you. Okay, once you have done that, you can either upload your videos of you asking the questions, or a photo of your notebook of the questions that you've written down up onto Dojo. Now I might suggest as well, a really good idea would be to come together to share those questions and hopefully some answers don't forget tomorrow we have our learning journey check-in, live check-in at 1:30. So I look forward to hearing your brilliant questions and your brilliant ideas either on Dojo or at our live session tomorrow. If you're feeling really inspired by a question matrix, don't forget that you can actually go back to yesterday's video and have a look at all the bits of evidence and see if you can think of any questions for the other pictures or evidence that was found as well. Okay, brilliant. Well, keep your eyes peeled and your ears open, detectives, because you never know when something else, some other clues might appear. Good luck, everyone, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.